it's tough crowd. Oh, there we go. Can you guys put on your mics? Public comment? We'll open the floor to public comment. No public comment? Public comment going 3 times, no public comment, okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 20th, 2026 regular meeting?
Make a motion to approve January 20th minutes.
Motion by Trish, second by Al, discussion?
I just have one little comment on page 2. It's tiny. Motion to appoint Fred Stanek as the co-chairperson of Bungay School. It says chairperson, item number 8. You and Peter are co-chairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I saw that I thought maybe should be corrected.
Are they co-chairs? All right. Okay. With that change, any other changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, abstentions? Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Appointments, in your packet, you will see the appointment list. There is none. We have no appointments. We will next week. Tax refunds and abatements. We have 2 tax refunds and abatements, one for January 16th and one for January 30th. Please look it over.
Make a motion to approve January 16th as presented.
Motion by Trish.
Second.
Second by Al. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to approve January 30th as presented.
Second.
Motion by Trish, second by Al. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Discussion of correspondences. In your packet, you'll see a letter from John Duke. It was put on our desk. John Duke is resigning from the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals, so we'll need to fill that position. And that's the only correspondence that we have.
I happen to be on that board, and I think we have a couple of vacancies. I'm not positive, but the way it panned out.
Okay.
Hello?
I love you.
Just, I think we have a couple of vacancies, more than just Mr. Duke for that board.
We'll look, but I thought we had every, yes?
On the other 2 positions or replacement?
Just one.
Just one.
John Dukes or just in addition to John?
Just John Duke.
Just John. We replace the other ones?
Just 4 others.
Okay.
You got an email earlier today, Roger.
I did,
Late in that.
and according to that email, we're down, and 2 alternates?
Oh,
Okay, all right, cool.
there's 5 members of the board with 2 alternates. We don't have any alternates. John Duke is just resigning, so now there's 1 open spot.
So if you have no alternates, then you need 2 alternates.
If you want to have one, yes.
We need to have alternates.
So, am I,
So you
was
were
I
right,
wrong or
Phil.
right? I would like Mr. Miller to say that.
Okay. Discussion with Human Resource Director Chris Pelosi.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I believe the 3 items on the agenda included a staffing update, discussion about a pay plan, and maybe a training program. So I'll start with the staffing update. We're fortunate in that there are relatively few vacancies throughout town. I'll start with Town Hall. As many of you know, for a long time we were trying to fill the tax assessor's position and we're struggling to do so. We've recently filled that position. Kevin Morawski has taken that role. He is a CCMA 1 certified to perform all of the duties of tax assessor for the town. In the community center, we have a tentative start date for municipal agent of February 9th. And now also at the community center, the building department, we're at full staff. We hired the housing ordinance enforcement officer back, I want to say October 25th. So both town hall and community center, with the exception of a couple of temporary seasonal positions for community services, or community center, Mary's department that she fills every year for camp counselors, things of that nature. We're at full staff in both those departments. Public Works, we were fortunate that we got a labor vacancy filled just prior to the storm. I want to say it was the Friday before the storm. We had a gentleman in that was, according to our director, instrumental in helping with cleanup related to the storm. So that was some excellent news. Spoke with Chief Buccarati. I know he was here recently and is again tonight, but in speaking with him, there's 4 officers in the academy, 1 in training, and there's 1 vacant position. And I believe there's an interview later this month for that. And the library is at full staff. So not too many vacancies across town, and those vacancies we do have are temporary part-time seasonal positions for the community center and municipal agent, with the exception of what Chief is managing over at the police department. With the new year, we've started a training series for mostly general government staff, and when I say general government, I mean pretty much everyone with the exception of Department of Public Works and the police department, who already have a very robust training program that they're required to do in order to comply with certain OSHA requirements and everything else. They complete those on an annual basis. I coordinate with Public Works, and occasionally, depending on the training, Chief Buccarati and everyone else is going to be participating in this training series we're going to be doing over the next 3 to 6 months. Trainings have been scheduled for every Monday in February. Each month I'm going to be in touch with PMA. They're our TPA for workers' comp. They provide a number of pro bono services. Training is among those. So just this past Monday we did a training on slips, trips, and falls and walking working surfaces. On the 9th we're doing bloodborne pathogen and hazard communication, and on the 23rd we're doing EAP and electrical safety. And at the end of each month we're going to continue rolling out in-person trainings, as many as we can, through PMA. We're starting with workplace safety trainings, and then we're going to get into trainings on skill sets for becoming a better supervisor, customer service, and kind of really expand things to capture a whole different variety of trainings. We're going to do as many in-person trainings as we can. Those trainings that we cannot do in person, we are going to do online and require that employees complete a list of trainings by the end of each year. They'll participate in the trainings online. We'll be able to push whatever trainings we want out to them through their town email, and they'll be required to complete it prior to the end of the year. That's more or less the training program in a nutshell. Are there any questions on either one of the staffing update or the training stuff before I talk about the pay plan?
Chris, can you just refresh our memories how long it took to fill that tax assessor position? Because that was a lot of work. That's been open for a while, right?
That was open for quite some time. I want to say there was a meeting where we talked about potentially increasing the salary of that position, because at the time we were recruiting, there were some 14 other towns that were recruiting for tax assessor.
Yeah.
And those towns were paying somewhere between 30 and 50% more than Seymour was
Right.
paying at the time. We did hold off on that candidate because we knew that the exam in October might increase the pool of candidates that were looking for new positions, and we were fortunate in that we were able to identify someone that had recently passed the CCMA 1 exam and was willing to come on board for a salary that was within our union contract pay range. So we did not need to use the increase that the board
No,
had.
understood. I would say you
Right.
put in a lot of work on
Sure.
this, because this has been open for at
Oh,
least
it's
3
been,
years, right?
it was between 2 and 3 years, I want
Right?
to say,
Yeah.
that it was
So
vacant, and we
good
had
job
an
getting somebody. I know
acting.
there's a lack of folks who are qualified to do that, or even want to do that job.
That's
So,
correct.
thank you.
test is very difficult.
What was the pass rate?
30%.
Yeah.
Chris, is there a place that we can find like org charts? New here, so I want to just kind of get my feet wet. And
Yeah, I think the most recent draft that we have of an org chart was probably within, the past couple of, past 3 to 6 months we completed a new org chart, so that's definitely something that I can,
that'd be great. Yeah.
that I can get to you, absolutely.
Thank you.
Just the training that we're talking about for the employees, the, workman's comp is paying for the training right now, or they're providing the training?
PMA Insurance Company is our third-party administrator for all things workers' comp, and part of the services that they provide is free training.
Right,
to
but this
employees.
training is required by,
No, it's not required.
so it's not required
It's-
training, we're just taking advantage of the
It's not required,
situation?
we're just taking advantage of the free training provided by PMA
Okay,
to train staff on, in as many areas as we can. There are some trainings that are required by employees, but we're not engaging PMA to do those trainings.
Okay.
Sexual harassment would be an example of one that we're required to complete, but that's not an area that PMA trains in for staff.
thank you.
I believe it's the OSHA required training, the OSHA required, the bloodborne pathogen, the HAZCOM, the electrical safety, the lockout, tagout, all those trainings are being done as required for OSHA by our public works and by our facilities
Right.
And
department.
I was just wondering if that, if we weren't getting, if the service wasn't being provided from where it's being provided from, if we would have to find a different avenue or pay for it outright, but we don't.
Right now, there's not been any trainings that we've identified for any department that aren't available to us.
Thank you.
So moving on to the pay plan that you have as part of your packet. Just for quick background, this was originally adopted by the board in 2020, revised in 2022, and is now in front of you for an update. Basic explanation of what it's trying to do is give a reference to the board and serve as a guide for establishing pay ranges for your non-bargaining unit positions in town. So what we do when we establish these pay ranges is collect salary data from other similar sized towns across the state of Connecticut. And in doing so, we determine an average pay rate for a position, and we look at that and then increase that pay range or that average salary by 15%. And on the opposite end of that, we reduce that average number by 15%, and we come up with our minimum salary and maximum salary. And the idea here is this serves as a guide to the board so that when you go out to recruit for a non-union position, you have a starting point as to what level these positions should be compensated at. A couple of key notes to consider with this revision is every single one of the positions that are listed in here are currently under contract, ending either in end of June 2028 or 2029, so this does not directly affect or do anything to the pay of the people that is in these positions. Again, it's a guide. And also, one revision that you'll notice from the prior pay plan, I apologize, this isn't a red line draft, but we had originally talked about the pay of the first select person, and we had agreed at one point, I want to say it was 2015, when the board first met and identified the pay of the select person as something they wanted to look at and potentially increase. And at that point, the board had decided to increase the salary to $85,000 and $2,500 increases for each successive term they were reelected. When I created this in 2020, we met and determined that $100,000 would be an appropriate starting point, and we wanted to preserve the $2,500 increases for each successive term. To accomplish that, we tied the pay for the first select person to the minimum of finance director, which at the time was $102,308. Because of what's happening in the state of Connecticut with the salaries of finance directors and just the fact that they are impossible to find, I can no longer recommend that we tie the first select person's pay to the minimum of finance director, because the salary range for finance directors are just increasing so rapidly that it wouldn't make any sense any longer to conjoin the two. So that's why under elected officials, you'll see first select person listed at 100,000, and rather than the 2,500 every 2 years, you'll just see that now there's a 3% salary increase effective every July 1 for the first select person. So I just wanted to point that out. And I also would like to point out that in Connecticut, the town, or in this case, the Board of Select Persons, is prohibited from granting any compensation greater than the amount set at the beginning of the elected official's term, which for us is be the first Monday in December of 2027. So nothing in here, as far as the changes I just described to the first select person's pay, would have any effect on Anne Marie specifically until 2 years from now, 2027. Her pay would still be governed and set under the existing document. And so that's kind of a synopsis. I mean, really all this is a revised pay schedule to reflect increases to the salaries of these positions based on the available market data that we have, which is through CCM, World at Work, and those are really the two major areas that I researched and looked at when I put the rest of this together. So I know that's a lot, and I know it's the first time some of you are seeing it, so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
An average may not be set for all of these, may not be applicable, but about how much are we looking at percentage-wise increase across those department heads?
So I looked at, if we look at everyone from below chief administrative officer, your IT director, facilities, human resources, and operations, those went up a total of 15% over 4 years, so
An average of 3%.
3.75% or so.
Okay.
The director of finance and the chief administrative officer went up significantly more, 25% over the 4-year period, so 6.5%, and that's consistent with every data set that I found from Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, World at Work, so on and so forth. To give you examples, Town of Hamden, I think right now, is looking for a new finance director, $155,000 to $200,000 a year. They're paying for that position. I believe Derby, I want to say, just hired a finance director. Can't speak to the guy's credentials. I think he has an MBA, $150,000 a year. So, as I alluded to a couple of minutes ago, finance directors in the state of Connecticut are very hard to come by. Municipalities are finally catching on that in order to get qualified people, they're going to have to pay for those people. And it's no different here in Seymour. We were talking about tax assessor and what a difficult recruitment that was. We're a little bit handcuffed there as far as what we can pay because we have union contracts, but as far as finance director is concerned, this board has the ability to negotiate employment contracts, and this is the range I would recommend for finance director, starting at 133 up to that 180 number. And again, just a guide to know roughly where you stand when you go to recruit for any one of these positions should they become vacant.
But Chris, we also have to look at it to make sure that, okay, Hamden is bigger than Ansonia and it has more
Sure.
residents than Ansonia. So their tax base can afford something like that. Seymour cannot.
That's right.
So we have to make sure when we're doing this, it's apples to apples, not apples to oranges.
So we like to look at, when we're doing a comparative study for salary ranges for Seymour, we like to look at towns that range between, I've expanded a little, I use 12,000 to 20,000. We used to use 14,000 to 18,000, plus or minus 2,000 from Seymour's population range, and that's what you're looking at when you are looking at the pay plan. Those are the size towns that we're comparing ourselves to.
It's very difficult for us because what Chris is doing is accurate, from an HR perspective, and I agree with you that we can't afford what the larger cities can, but the narrower the specialty, the narrower, how much you know and what your education is to do that job, narrower your,
The tools
candidates
that
are
a town
going
or
to
city
be-
might have versus what we may not have, and what they, so there's a lot
Or
to
what
it.
we
so the
need.
candidate pool will be narrow, and when it's narrow, based on the specialties and the functions, the more you're going to pay to have,
And you make a
find
decision
somebody.
when that happens. If you get a candidate that's got the MBA and he's not a CPA, then maybe you're paying closer to the minimum of 130. If you get someone with 20 years of municipal experience in a large city in Connecticut, maybe you're somewhere between the midpoint and the maximum of the salary range. When we first set this up, one of the questions that I presented to the board was, where does the town of Seymour want to be with respect to the market when it's paying these positions? Do we agree we want to at least be at market? Do we want to be below market? And one of the considerations was, to Anne Marie's point, this is a small town.
I got a quick question. Is there, with your headhunter hat on, and your experience, is these particular jobs, these specific jobs, is salary the only incentive?
No.
Is there anything else we could look at, besides salaries that would add to the pot?
Of course.
There are things to look at?
There's
Amenities?
plenty to look at. We're taking advantage of just about all of them.
Right.
Anything that we can do to offer less salary and, offset costs there where we can,
I don't get the
creative
salary,
and
but I get this,
add other
this, and
incentives.
this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there are things
Yes.
that we can, okay.
And this really should be looked at every 5 years or so, because the ranges change.
Less.
Yeah, I
It
would
should
say
be-
3.
This went too long, as it is.
Yes.
This was 2022 to now, and that is why you're seeing some larger increases in the pay ranges, because I would recommend, if not every year, every 2 years, we look at this, because you're gonna have positions that fluctuate more than others. Finance director being one of them. Any other questions about the pay plan? And Kurt, did it say discussion or did it say approve and discuss? One of the,
Just
As far as
review
the
and
ma-
update, that's it.
okay, as far as the maintenance of this plan, in order to change any of the ranges in the plan, it does require the approval by the Board of Select Persons. So I just wanted to point that out as well. And with that, I don't have anything else on any of the topics unless anyone has other questions.
Does anybody have any other questions for Chris? Scotty, I know you had asked me a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna just send him an email and do it that way,
Okay,
instead of taking the time here.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item,
Oh,
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to add Tri-Town Plaza discussion to the agenda.
Motion by Al, second by Scott. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. I will put that after, Chief McBride,
Okay,
After what?
after 9.
after 9. Discussion, after 10. Discussion and possible action regarding the potential for dispatch
Oh, 10.
transition, for the Seymour Police Department to the Northwest Community Public Safety Communication Center. Chief McBride.
Hi again.
Aye.
Back tonight to just give you kind of opportunity to ask any more questions that you may have and to kind of go over a timeline and estimated costs if we were to do this. So I think in talking with Dave from Northwest, about a year is a realistic timeline to get this done. I've already started making calls to the state, to our radio vendor, to our other vendors that may need to be involved in getting some costs associated with this and timelines with that. Plus, there's a certain amount of training that has to be done, and the biggest part of it is the software integration. We use NextGen. They also use NextGen, but getting those systems to talk and to work cohesively together is probably the biggest hurdle. So, in looking at if we got to go live, say we get the go ahead on March 1st, we were looking at a March 1st of 2027 timeline to go live with this. That being said, for the next fiscal year, Northwest could prorate the contract, so we're not paying the full amount. We'd be paying about a quarter of the amount, plus what we pay for the fire department. Okay, so if we were to do a March or April, say go live date, maybe April will be better. It's a quarter of the cost. So I just want to reiterate that we wouldn't be paying that full amount in the next fiscal year. That's what we're doing. So that being said, I mean, we're looking for the board's approval tonight, and if there are any questions, I have Dave here from Northwest.
I'm assuming that was already considered in your budget.
What's that?
That was already considered in your budget, or no?
This is not coming out of our budget. This would be out of I think it's the communication budget?
Communications budget?
Yeah.
Communications emergency management.
What's in the budget?
Right now, it's just the initial amount.
Okay, so the initial amount is already in there for this year.
Correct, $134,000,
Okay, so it's been
I
accounted.
believe. And then, depending on your action tonight, we would need to prorate that amount added to.
So what's in there is just for fire and EMS right now?
Correct.
I'm not opposed, but how about budgeting going forward? Because we don't have you don't have a past budget for
We would,
20
well,
26.
obviously, for next fiscal year, we would have to include whatever we're gonna approve if we were to approve this tonight, in the next fiscal year, we'd have to present that to the Board of Finance. And then going forward after that, we would have to include that in the communications.
But this is all or nothing commitment. Once we do this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little hesitant to do this tonight, because I still have a lot of questions. Not saying I'm for or against it, I just have a lot more questions. I haven't had a chance to really delve into this. I didn't know we were gonna vote on this tonight, in terms of yes or no. I know we're gonna discuss it, but just wanna put that out there. I'm not completely comfortable with the dark police department. I'm just not. Have we thought of other possible solutions to this issue? Chief, have we
Yeah.
tossed it around? Have we thought of other things? Because
There's the other two alternatives are we hire civilians to do it, or we train our officers to do it. I'm not a fan of either one, and I kind of reiterated at the last meeting why. Civilians, it would cost probably more than what we're asking for this, to add employees to the town, have a separate union, and to manage them, and for oversight for them, it's gonna cost us money. As far as training our officers, like I said, each officer would have to be trained as a telecommunicator. Each officer would have to be trained as an emergency medical dispatcher and receive 911 training. Like I said, they're not in there all the time. They don't have the expertise that civilian dispatchers have that do this full time. And we're asking them to do another job. We're going to require them to get training to do another job, which means we may have to actually compensate them a little more if they're going to be telecommunicators. Because that would constitute a change in the working
This question
conditions.
might to you, 'cause I think Kurt might have to answer this, because it's in the communication budget. Is it a net neutral move to do this? I mean, for what we're taking out there and putting into the communications budget, or
No.
it's not?
They're not getting rid of officers. They're just gonna reassign them somewhere else.
We're going to reassign.
Yeah,
They don't get any
they'll be
extra
better
hours for
utilized.
doing that. That's just an assignment, and they get paid the same. So
I
there's
guess
no.
you can argue there's more police officers available on the street, more special assignments, community
That's
officers, I'm
fair.
sure. Chief Bugarati's gone through all those things.
You're not spending money on the training or potential lawsuit when someone calls 911 and an officer
Well,
doesn't
that-
show up to the house until 8 minutes after.
The getting rid of a liability is a big part of this.
Yeah,
I get that. I get that too. But what do other towns in Connecticut, the other towns in Connecticut other than Waterbury and Middlebury do? Because we know that
So
those are the other two communities Northwest has in terms of police
Right.
departments.
Farmington and Avon just folded into one. I believe
When you say folded into one, chief, what do you mean?
that means one's taking over the dispatching services for the other. I believe.
Okay.
Is it Avon that went into Farmington? Yeah, Avon folded into Farmington, so Avon is running that dark station, and Farmington's handling their police dispatch. Fairfield and Westport consolidated, so they're in one center right now. Easton is closing their doors, and they are joining the Fairfield Regional Center. So there's a lot of places that actually, most of the bigger cities manage their own, but Fairfield and Westport is probably the largest one that's consolidated. We're a smaller department. It just makes more sense for us to do this, and to fold into a regional center like this.
I have one quick question. Sure. I think Mr. Bruno's question had to do with the dark office at times. Is there any other feedback from other, are there any problems that come up that,
Nothing, honestly, nothing that would stop us from doing this. The feedback is nothing really changes. If you look at the way we operate now, you walk in during the day and there's a blacked out area where you can't see, and you pick up the phone and you talk to somebody. That's going to be the same. We still have officers in the building during the day shift. During the day, there's a records clerk there at the window that could help somebody if they need help. And after hours, it really is not going to make a difference.
The situation that we were talking about last time, where somebody may be being chased or followed,
Yep.
whatever, they walk into the police station, they don't have a person to talk to, they pick up the phone. At that point, if the situation requires it, would we automatically lock the door behind them?
We can.
We
Yes,
can?
we have that capability now.
Okay.
We can buzz doors from the console. We would change it where we can, we would make a secure area for them. That's part of the whole design for our lobby that we want.
And my last question, I'm sorry. Going forward, this is a question a little bit ahead, but when and if you transition the phone communications over, is there a time period that somebody may be overlapping in the station because of a glitch in a flaw? I mean, when you're integrating computer systems, I mean, I don't,
So
certain
are you talking
problems
are you
come up.
talking 911?
Yes.
No, so the state handles that. And what happens is we notify the state, we need to send a letter of intent to the Department of Emergency Telecommunications.
Right.
They coordinate the switchover. So they've done this a lot of times before,
Right.
so there's no gap in coverage.
Not
911
a
will
gap
make
in
some-
coverage, but in case that there's a problem, the system goes down because it's brand new or whatever, is there gonna be our original system still online for a period of time, just to make sure that we don't have any problems or a gap in that?
Are you talking about the 911 system or the computer, our own in-house computer system?
Well, our own in-house computer system is doing it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's
then
gonna
we're
be linked to
switch over
Northwest
the new
as well.
communication
Yep.
system. That day when we switch over, what if during the switchover there's a problem? Is there anything in place to say for the newness of this is protected?
Yes, the 911 system itself is designed to be redundant and to roll
Okay.
over. So let's just say, for instance, that there was nobody behind the desk at Seymour, all right, right now. The dispatcher had to step out, and for whatever reason, the desk was left uncovered. Someone calls 911. That call is not answered. It automatically is rolled over to a
Okay,
neighboring
okay.
PSAP or to where. This is part of the reason why the state wants to reduce the complexity of this, because they have to design these networks and they all have to work together. And by eliminating answering points, they reduce the cost. So reconfiguring the 911 system to take Seymour out of the loop is saving them money.
So I know you said that the other options would be civilians or
Yes.
to train the police,
Yes.
the department. Do you have a cost breakdown of how many civilians you think we would need to bring in, what that pay rate looks like versus the training and increase, so that we can kind of take a look and
I
compare?
can get that for you. I don't have
Yeah.
that with me right now,
That would
but
be good.
we did a preliminary study just based on open dispatcher positions. We're looking at a salary range of close to $60,000 to just recruit people and to keep them here.
And how many do we think that we would need?
Probably 6 to 8 to cover. So it would make no sense to, if we're going to keep hire civilian dispatchers, we should just.
Well, and
hi-
also I would also like to see the training and increase, I
Yes,
think
the
would be for
so
the
the training
department.
itself, we just got a cost breakdown of that. It would cost about $100,000 to train our officers.
Okay.
Okay, and that's a recurring, it's not $100,000 each time, but you have to take into account the cost of each class,
Yep.
the cost of taking somebody out of rotation, and then we have to fill that with overtime to backfill to train that person. So
Just as-
that
yeah.
would be about $100,000 initial expense to train everybody, and then we have to keep them certified.
Yeah, if you can, kind of provide that initial swag, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to see those numbers too, Chief, so I can make a data-driven decision with my vote. The other thing is, you mentioned before that it really wouldn't make a difference whether the police department is dark or not. Can you explain to me a little more how so? Because I'm not
Sure.
understanding that.
When you walk in the police department.
Because I've heard, just so you know, I've heard
Mhm.
the main issue with this for a lot of people, including me, is that they'd prefer somebody be in that building
And
in the
that's-
early
that's
hours,
fair.
because I guess that's just what people are used to.
Yeah.
So, for me to be able to explain that to them who may not be watching tonight and understand,
So-
I need to understand.
Yeah. The screen when you walk, the windows when you walk in are tinted out. Because we cannot, the computer systems that we have in there, you can't let the public see what's on those screens. It's protected information.
Yep.
So by law, they have to be blacked out for us to be compliant with collect and CJIS. So when you walk in right now, if our officers are on the road and the person's behind, we don't have an interaction with that person besides them picking up a phone. And the dispatcher, if he's in there, will answer the phone. So they're
Understood.
not getting a face-to-face.
No, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
face-to-face, I'm talking
Yeah.
about somebody there physically
Okay.
to take
No,
action
so-
if necessary. I
yeah.
think that's the real concern. Not picking up a phone and buzzing in. I think people are used to that. I think the thought of our police department not having a human being in it in the early morning hours is bothering folks. And quite honestly, it's not sitting well with me either.
Okay.
And
And
it's
then we pick up the phone, and if it's emergency, you dispatch, 911 dispatch an officer off the road right to the
Right to the police
station.
department.
Right.
So that's
So
what,
that-
that's what
I'd
happens
rather
now.
have the police on the road than even at the police station.
But here's my point. That's great, but we've had some breakdowns with that, correct? We've had some issues with initial calls coming in and then they haven't been tended to
Well,
until
that's,
after.
we've had
certain
some
things have
issues
happened.
with calls being taken by officers behind the desk and then maybe not dispatching somebody that should have been dispatched.
Right,
So this is what I'm trying to eliminate,
got it.
you know?
But it sounds like you already have that fail-safe, it's just failing. So how is this different?
Well,
Do you get the first call?
so I'll give you
Northwest
an
gets the
example.
first call? That's
We
what I'm
had-
struggling with,
the
I
fire
just don't know
depart-
enough
The
about
fire
it.
department had a fire last week on Deerfield Drive. And if you listen to the 911 call, the lady calls and she's screaming, and our officer is trying to ascertain what happened.
Mhm.
And right in the middle of it, she said, "My house is on fire." And he goes, "Okay, I have to transfer you." So now we have to transfer that call, and somebody else had to pick up and start all over again. 911, what's your emergency? While this lady's still screaming on the line.
Got it.
That's what we're trying to, that's the part that it's just bad customer service, and we're trying to eliminate that and get people where they have to go faster.
So do other towns combine their police and fire together to take these calls, so you eliminate that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So has that been explored?
I'm sorry?
Has that option been explored?
To hire civilians to do all of them?
No,
So
to
that's,
have police and
so
fire.
that's what we're trying to
it.
do, is move the police to where the fire and EMS are in the same building.
Fire's already at Northwest.
Yeah,
Okay.
fire
I'm
and
saying-
EMS are already there.
I'm not being clear. So, I get the fire's already at Northwest. If we didn't use Northwest to do that,
Mm-hmm.
could our fire and police personnel do that? You're saying no, that is not an option.
If they're, they're volunteer. I mean,
Right.
You'd have to have
Right, so
somebody
you wouldn't,
staff
you
it.
couldn't have that.
Yeah, or the police would have to dispatch them,
Right.
which, that would be a whole nother.
Well, so for the record, I just want to say I support this because I'm a long-term thinker and I can see, even if you gave us a breakdown of civilians, what this turns into in the future as far as salary, benefits packages, and number of people required and state mandates, and I mean, the list can go on. So the one thing, I am just I would approve this. I'm just, because we haven't gone through the budget process yet for future years, and this really locks us in, I'm just concerned where things go come that point. But being the long-term thinker I would go ahead and approve this.
That's
And it's
really
for
what
the
we're
safety
thinking
of
to
our
do
residents,
is-
it's not a willy-nilly item, right? It's a lot of things, you know, the money is something people can complain about, and I get it, because I often look at these things and say, why the hell is it so much? Why? That said, we can all do that until it's someone they love and there's an emergency and it doesn't go the way planned, because 10 seconds can save a life. And so in
That's
the
great,
spirit
and
of
I
that-
understand that, and I appreciate that, Trish, and we're all long-term thinkers, I think that's why we're on this board, but what I wanna know is, what are the estimated maintenance costs of that software, long-term? What are the annual costs after the first 3-year contract is up? I don't wanna lock us into something where the state is subsidizing it for 3 years, and then 3 years from now, the costs are
So
through the
we-
roof. Now
we-
what?
We already pay the software. We already pay for the
So
software.
will it have to be
That
maintained
annually
and
is
upgraded,
about
though?
20, no.
Right? No?
So that's borne by the center. So,
Okay.
so the.
See, I haven't
the-
seen the contract yet, so that's what it is, I don't.
We use the same
Well,
software
how can I
now, it's
improve
just
it without seeing
getting
the
the
contract?
databases to sync together. That's the hardest part.
So what everybody's looking for is the value. So we can talk fluently with,
I get it. I'm just getting nervous because I don't know
I
the
understand
data.
that, and I think
can't
it's a
approve it
good
without the
nervous,
data.
because we need to know, what are we buying?
And what does that look like after
What,
3
so,
years?
you know, we're gonna pay a little more, we're gonna pay a little less, but what we're getting, that's what we have to sell, is what's the value of this, and how, I know from experience from where I worked, that, civilian dispatchers is a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. But the totality of this and what the value is, what we're gaining and what we're losing for the cost is what we all need to be able to fluently talk about.
Yeah, I agree with Al on this. I want to see, I mean, do we have also what the increases have looked like for other places that are using this every,
So,
you know, contract over contract?
Last meeting I went over the cost, it was, so right now.
I see
we're-
the cost here, but I mean, after this contract, percentage-wise, what does that increase look like through Northwest?
It would be based on our population.
Yeah, it's always based on population, the way they're priced out.
So they won't increase their, at all, just based on population? There's no rate
They probably
increase?
have increases of 3% or whatever.
Right, that's what, yeah.
I mean, it's great to surmise, Bob, I just want to know.
Yeah.
It's
I think
good to
I need
like,
to understand
it's
what
good
that-
to
But
say.
you're getting balled up in that, and the expenses of having
I'm
somebody.
gonna have Dave
I'm
from
about to
Northwest come up
approve
and
like
talk
a
about the contract.
$400,000
Wait.
thing, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
approve that without data.
Yeah, but when you start hiring people, and you have to have benefits, and all the other things that come
I'm
along with that.
not saying we should do
Yeah, but
civilian.
Al wants
I
the
think you
number,
start,
so
that's a
everybody.
huge number. It's gonna be a lot different than the numbers they're throwing out at us.
But
That's just-
I think to Al's point.
I need to know the numbers, period.
Yeah, I need to
Oh,
understand
does
what
Kurt have the numbers?
all of those look like, yeah.
Yeah, so if you, through you, Madam Chairman, if you use an average salary of $60,000, the projected salary per person would be their total cost, salary and benefits, $99,790 for 6 civilian dispatchers, $598,740.
Yeah, that's not my question. My question is, what
Well,
does the
somebody asked that question.
Northwest
I did.
deal cost? Yeah, I'm not, we can do, that's a separate issue. Civilians doing this versus going with Northwest. I wanna know, what are the numbers from Northwest? How much is it gonna cost to start up? What are the future costs with this? Cause I think that's the oranges to oranges comparison.
If it's
And then
based on
civilians
population-
sounds like it's not gonna work because it's gonna get too unwieldy and costly. That's great. But that's what we need to know. That's what I need to know in order to make an informed decision.
We can go back and look at the last 7 or 8 years of working with these folks, and what you'll see, and again, this is just on ambulance and fire, I would say the increases have been extremely low. So I think we've maybe gone up $8,000 or $9,000 in the last 7 or 8 years.
Based on what? Population or time?
It's based on
So
population.
if our population goes up, then the cost goes up?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
'cause
one of
there's
the
certain
questions
things
that
more
we're
people-
asking,
But
right?
it's not just
But we
that.
asked that.
It's,
But our
I think the
population's
question
gonna
that,
be limited.
it's like Bruno's asking is, what is the cost per resident? And is that gonna have a dramatic increase over
Right.
time? I think, Ren, I think the same
Yeah.
thing you're asking.
Because
So,
people don't wanna pay more for taxes, right?
I think it's
So
been very
if
blunt.
this is necessary, we need to know what we're gonna be burdening the taxpayer with and what the benefits of it are. That's what I need to be clear on, because I can't just approve this and say, yeah, we should do this, when we have so many other things we're trying to address in our town, and we know that with our strategic plan. So, which Bob and Trish can speak to.
This is actually in the strategic
And
plan.
Anne Marie.
Can I catch up on some answers?
Yeah, great, go for it.
All right, I'm Dave Martin, I'm the executive director of Northwest.
Thank you for seeing me
So,
again.
so the per capita is $27 per resident. That's how we charge out. I don't believe there's been a raise in the rate in about 10 years or more. So the way a regional center works is as you add more, it defers and spreads the cost amongst everyone. So as long as we continue to grow, which Seymour is part of that growth, that allows us to not raise our rates. Usually it's a 3-year contract with 2 or 3 3-year renewals. We can write whatever you want into that contract in terms of solidifying your rates. Usually we do some type of CPI plus a percentage in terms of that, but if you wanted to go 3 years and, 0 increase on the first renewal, that locks you in for 6, and then you'd have a CPI plus, so you know what your exposure could be. Again, it's been over 10 years, I think, since Northwest raised any rates at all. As far as the dark station goes, that was a concern of yours. That's the number one question that always comes up.
Yeah, not just mine, people I've talked to.
In
too.
general,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Anybody that we talk to, that's always the first concern. What I would welcome is anyone who wants, I call them field trips. Anybody who wants to take a field trip and come down to Northwest, I think that's the most beneficial and the most meaningful way that you would understand. Middlebury is a dark station that we do. We have cameras for their police and fire department. The way it would work is if that scenario everybody plays out is a woman's driving down the street, somebody's following her, she goes to the police station, she gets out of the car, wants to run in, it's a dark station, right? That's the worst case scenario, that's the one everybody plays out because that's your nightmare. You ring a bell, which you need to do now anyway. We have a dispatcher that opens the door and there's a locked vestibule. So once the person enters that, they can't get in the building, but nobody else can get in that vestibule. That's something that needs to be built out in your station.
Understood. I remember that from your
At
presentation.
that point, they pick up a phone, which is what they do now anyway, and then we would dispatch someone in off the road to come in and render aid. I can tell you, while our dispatchers don't sit there staring at the screens the whole time, we had an incident in Middlebury, it was the middle of the day, as a matter of fact, fully staffed station, and one of our dispatchers noticed, I think I told the story the last time I was here, noticed with the lieutenant running down the hall. So he picked up the phone, called, no one answered. He called somebody in from the street, that the other 2 officers were on duty, immediately went to the station. Turned out the lieutenant was running to answer the phone because somebody else was on the phone, both lines were tied up. But they noticed the person running and responded to it appropriately. So in some ways you have almost, in theory, a better level of coverage. Right now you have an officer in there by themselves, God forbid they're sick, they fall, something happens, they could be there for an extended period of time. Our cameras, we can buzz in the Sally port, we have complete control over the entire station remotely from where we are. I really think a visit would be beneficial to answer the questions that you have. I can tell you that Torrington, Plymouth, and Winstead are all customers of Litchfield County Dispatch. Torrington has a manned station. Plymouth and Winstead are dark stations, and they operate predominantly the same way. It's all remote camera. I can tell you if you go to Waterbury, there's 2 officers behind the desk. When you pick the phone up, you don't talk to them, you talk to our dispatchers in our center while you're standing there on the phone looking at the 2 officers behind the desk. So it's really the way that it's done in general. I also have the person who runs DSET, which is Emergency Communications for the state, who would be happy to come in and speak to the dark station as well because he deals with that question all the time. The state is a big advocate of the consolidation. And he has, pretty good answers for that. But really, it doesn't, in some ways you could argue it's a better, obviously having an officer in there is better. You're never going to replace that. But I always ask, officers and departments, when's the last time you had that scenario of someone running up? And most of them have never had it.
Yeah.
Even though it could happen. and it is
I
the
think it's a
worst
great
case scenario.
hypothetical. I think
Yeah.
it's more the thought of
It's
nobody
perception.
being there.
Yeah,
Right. It's
absolutely.
the perception of
100%.
there's not a human being in that building
And-
from midnight to 6 a.m.
Yeah,
or
and it's
whatever.
like, well, and what you find is the officers are generally in and out all night. I mean, the activity, Middlebury, I think,
Because
only
they're
has
still patrolling.
2
and
people on
there's-
duty. They come in
Right.
for coffee.
This is the data I need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally.
Excuse me, Chief, but what about the commanders or the supervisors? Aren't
So
they in the buildings at
We
night?
usually do have a supervisor that would be in the building most of the time, unless they're called out onto the road. Our officers also come in and, you know, they're required to complete their reports, and we have 3 report rooms for them to do so. So at any time, you could have an officer in there, you know, completing a report, or, you know, looking at his emails or doing whatever, you know, whatever he has to get done. So,
I would say, come for a trip. It's very enlightening. It is a state-of-the-art center. Not to belabor a lot of the backbone costs, but we're on a 5 or 7 year replacement on all the infrastructure IT-wise. We just redid our recorders, 911 recorders. We're in the process this Monday of redoing our core, all of our brains of the whole place. So that's all expenses that you avoid. A lot of that stuff you don't run into anymore. Back to your question about the backup of the 911 on transition, we can dispatch it right now. We can cut your 911s over. I don't want to embarrass any municipalities. We had a municipality of about 60,000 people, the 3rd time in 9 months that they've come to us with a power failure in the building. The building goes down dark, they're having electrical issues. They're actually coming to us tomorrow with their electricians are at their station. They're gonna dispatch from our center for the day while the electricians figure out what the core problem was there. But at any given time, we can take 911s from anyone, and we can patch into anyone. We have the ability on an incident, especially if we do a lot with fire, we can patch all the surrounding towns together on one channel to talk. The only other thing I would mention is, you mentioned disaster with civilian dispatchers. There's a lot of horror stories. I was fire chief in Waterbury when we transitioned to Northwest, and I was impossible. I was a nightmare for them. It's a big difference now. Northwest has been at it for over 10 years. We have a lot of people who have been at Northwest since the transition of Waterbury. And if you look at the certifications, you know, when the chief talks about the training, if you look at the certifications, the training that we do and all that, we QPR, which is quality assurance, over 50 calls a week, police, fire, EMS. We review those results with our people. We have all reports for that. We report to Waterbury, which we'd be happy to do for Seymour. We have a weekly meeting with them that we report call volume, we report the QPR, the quality assurance results. So there's a lot of scrutinization that goes on now. It's not, and I don't know where you were talking about those, it depends on where you are. Some are a little more diligent than others. And, but the only other, I would just politely say that the 6 civilians, it would be more than that. It's about 4.2 people per shift that it takes to fill 24/7. You'd probably more like 7 or 8 people. And if you can get somebody for 60,000, God bless you, you can recruit for me, because the numbers for dispatchers are getting crazy. It's very hard for us to compete. We just gave 4% raises. We're a unionized shop. We just gave 4% raises outside the confines of the contract. And we're probably getting the same thing again in July just to stay competitive. So you're probably north of 100,000 per. You figure even if it's 6 to 8 people, you're already below what the cost of Northwest would be to come to us now. Last answer to something that had come up about the prorating. You pay us twice a year. By the time, if we migrated in March, by the time you paid your full year of your current fee would be paid. So we would subtract that from the new fee, divide by 12, and multiply that by however many months are left of the year. That would be your prorate.
Bree, did you have a question?
Yeah, so we mentioned having to build something out in the police department. Do we have like an estimate on what that'll cost as well, right? For if it's dark, for someone to come in.
So the infrastructure itself would be covered under a grant that we would get from the state. The state is encouraging the transition, so there's $300,000 available for us to implement what it would take to move our dispatch to Northwest. So that would be covered by the grant.
But do we have the cost breakdown of that?
No, not really. We haven't even started really the high level meetings with it. So
Yeah, I think like Al, I'm not opposed. I just want to have all of those data points before I make a decision on everything.
Generally, if you voted favorably, what we would do is a letter of intent. It's non-binding, so for some reason, for example, Chief said, I want a different CAD, I don't want the next gen. We would say, you know, everybody's on it, we can't do that. We would part ways and that would be it. So it's a non-binding agreement. It would have a confidentiality component. It would memorialize the rates that we've discussed with you already. And that's usually what we do next, and then we get into the diligence part that you're talking about, where we start to look at costs, look at migration, kind of dial the timeline in a little bit more. That's how we've done it in the past. Obviously, I think you all want to see a little more. Again, I highly recommend a trip to Northwest. We're happy to host, but I think that would be very enlightening.
I think that's a great idea too. The only thing I would like to see is just a 1 to 2 pager on the costs estimated, you know, what we're gonna be getting into, chief.
Yeah.
And then, you know, is this budgeted, what do we need for the future? Just like Tricia mentioned, to start the questions with budgeting, just to make sure we have that, that's all. I just need to know, i's dotted, t's crossed, and then I would be okay with it, but I need that data first, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so.
A visual.
So, the letter of intent, is there anything we could do to allow the letter of intent to lock into some, because you just said locking into numbers and all that?
We're not gonna change the numbers on you, I mean, I'm not gonna hold you. We're pretty friendly in terms of doing business, we've been part of Seymour with fire and EMS for forever, really, so, you know.
Yeah, I was
usually-
looking at it just to get the kick started, so we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I understand what you're looking for, you're looking for more of the infrastructure, camera system, all that. I think that can be done without us moving forward anything past the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna jam it up, but if you need my vote to move it forward, I just need to see more, a 1 to 2 pager on the specs and what's going on here.
So
'Cause we
for
just
like
had
the
one
infrastructure
presentation.
changes, is that what you're looking for?
Just the total costs. I want to know what the costs are. And Brian, do you feel that we could vote yes and enter into a letter of intent, and we could change things later if necessary?
There's actually no action being asked or requested. at
Oh, there
this
isn't?
tonight.
I
No,
thought there was.
no.
Then what are you guys
A
talking
report
about with a,
from
with an
discussion,
approval?
oh,
You
sorry,
guys are talking
sorry,
approval.
I looked at the wrong line,
It's
discussion of
possible
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 action.
action, I
The
thought.
other is- I apologize, sorry, I was looking at the wrong line.
You
Sorry,
can authorize,
sorry.
the town to enter into a letter of intent in such form that the town attorney approves, and we'll make sure that the positions that you have an out in the event you're not happy with the data they give you. You know, they may lock in for 6 years, but then for year 7, they go up 83%.
Right.
You say no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, Brian. That makes me feel better, but I still want to know the numbers and what we're getting into, so when people ask me in town, I can explain it to them logically. That's all. I just haven't seen that. Not that I don't trust you, chief. I just need
No,
the
that's
data.
fine. Yeah. No, I've already reached out to some vendors to just give us some high-level meetings on the costs associated. I didn't want to do too much with it in case we didn't
Sure.
move forward.
No,
you know,
understood.
so.
And back to your question about the cameras and all that grant, I don't wanna say it's gonna be hard to spend that money, because it's not hard to spend money these days. I think it will more than cover most of what the expense would be. And the only thing for us, we end up needing a fiber line, a direct fiber line that doesn't exist now. It's usually the T1 line or something that we utilize for.
Maybe just one other thing, or something just to follow, because I said in the police commission meetings when this came up, you may want to ask the chief about whether in fact people do show up at the police department with emergencies. I think the answer was that never happens.
Because it's just
Not
such
the
an odd
scenario
hour
that-
of the
yeah,
morning.
That's the
and
worst-case scenario.
People watching too many movies.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I think it's more, they sleep better at night knowing somebody's in the station now.
From the
At
public,
least,
that's always the question.
if it's not dispatch, it's a supervisor, like
Yeah.
Anne Marie was talking about, you were talking about.
But
So-
the switches of a dark station, you have cameras, there's several people watching the cameras, and compared to one officer in there, God forbid something happened to him, there'd be nobody anyway. But the cameras are on 24/7, so there's always a person.
Also the grounds, parking lot, I mean, I'm not telling you how to set your system up. Usually it's
You're
the
monitoring the
exterior.
whole
It's everything.
station.
It's a
Okay.
360
So it's
view.
a-
Cell,
Yeah.
so even if you have a prisoner, usually you have someone with them, but we're monitoring the cell on camera as well.
Right, so dark doesn't mean nobody, dark just means now it's,
It's a bad term.
it is an
dark
option,
station.
yes.
Well,
It's a-
that's why I want to be able
That's
to
why-
answer it
Yeah.
and
And
give,
then-
Bad term.
give facts.
Yeah.
And I can tell you again, not to speak out of school in Middlebury, they only have 2 officers on the overnight, and the majority of the night, one or the other is in there for one reason or the other.
Right.
They kind of migrate in and out, so.
So the lights are on, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
bodies in
there's-
there.
There's activity in and out of the
Yeah.
station, and,
Okay.
especially when it's cold.
It helps get more people on the street, that's also good too.
That's the thing, is we're keeping an officer in there 24/7, where we could be using them, what they're trained for.
Right.
As far as your legal, we'll send you a letter,
Okay.
a template for a letter of intent, you can review that, and then, you know.
Okay. Motion? Or letter?
Oh, should we make it, yeah, so, motion to authorize, Northwest to provide a letter of intent to,
Town attorney?
Authorize
Town
the town
attorney.
to enter into a letter of intent with Northwest Communications regarding the transition of dispatch
What he
Second.
said, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Al. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
And I'll leave it up to the chief to contact anyone who wants to.
Yeah, we'll set up something.
Yeah, that might be an opportunity.
I think you should.
Where are you guys again?
We're actually
Waterway.
located in St. Mary's Hospital.
St. Mary's.
Okay,
But dual backup generator.
I thought you said
security on
Waterbury,
site,
right?
it's a-
Yeah.
It's a great spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it covers
Not far.
The infrastructure that we need.
not far.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm staying up here for the next one, so.
Let's say report from Chief Bucarati, including timeline and financials for fiscal 2027.
I gave you those already. For the, that was under the dispatch.
Discussion and possible action regarding potential program for fleet replacement for the Seymour Police Department.
Okay, so I'm not gonna do this whole presentation. My deputy chief here, Mike Fapiano, will fill you in. I just want to give you a little background. Each year we budget for cars. Each year they're cut. Okay, and our fleet is getting old. We're looking at different ways how to manage our fleet, and you know the cost of a vehicle is really rising very fast. So for us to get a patrol car for say is about $70,000. It's between buying the vehicle and then the necessary upfitting to do it. So we've been looking at different ways to get vehicles to turn over our fleet. To hopefully reduce the size of the fleet that we have. Right now, we keep old vehicles, we use them for private duty, and we make money on them. So that's, I know there was a concern with us having too many vehicles. I've heard that. Those vehicles they have a high mileage on them. We constantly are throwing good money after bad, trying to fix them to keep them on the road. So when Deputy Chief Fapiano went to the FBI Academy, he learned of a program through Enterprise. It's a vehicle leasing program. I'll let him kind of go into the details of it, but it would enable us to turn over our fleet, keep our fleet new, and to use the equity in the vehicles that we have to just enter into leases with the patrol vehicles. And I'll let Mike explain it. I'll let the guy from Enterprise, Mike Stewart here from Enterprise, explain it. Yes.
Before you go anywhere, so both Selectman Finley and I, and Selectman Andrew and Benka, we pretty much heard during the snowstorm with those cars parked underneath the bridges. So those are pretty much private duty cars?
Some of them were frontline. A lot of them were private. A lot of them we use for spare cars and for private duty.
Okay.
Yeah. We have to have spares. I mean, if our frontline go down, we need cars to get out there. But we do keep vehicles that are have very high mileage on them. We use them for private duty. We get $30 an hour just for having them sit on road jobs. So they do bring us in some revenue for having those cars. So, but I'll let Mike take over and explain the whole program to you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. So as the chief said, while I was down at the National Academy, a lot of discussions with agencies, administrators from across the country. Just trying to figure out what everyone else is doing, and one of the things that I noticed a lot of people were doing was enterprise fleet management. So prompted me to do a little research after hearing great things about it. But, our vehicles, like the chief said, they are just getting older. They're getting high in mileage. I understand that, we've seen the comments online about all the vehicles. With vehicles that are in a lease program, we're going to be getting rid of those vehicles a lot sooner. So we're going to have lower maintenance costs for the vehicles. We're going to have our officers in safer vehicles. A lot of times we forget those are their offices, and they're in those vehicles 24 hours a day. Most of them are being driven around the clock. They're different drivers, so it's not your typical vehicle. The maintenance on them is a lot more. They do get a lot of engine hours, so it's not a typical vehicle that you're dealing with. We have quotes for new vehicles now between $70,000 and $80,000, and that's the full upfitting of a vehicle. Equipment, radios, computers, and the longer that we're keeping these vehicles, newer models are coming out, so we're not necessarily able to transfer over some of that equipment. Body styles change. We need new cages for the cars. We need new components inside the cars. So the longer we hold on to them, the more money it's costing us. Right now, 75% of our fleet is 5 years or older, with an average vehicle lifespan of keeping the vehicles about 12 years. We have officers that are driving around in older vehicles, whether they're going to a road job or whether they're responding to calls that are higher in mileage. Our private duty vehicles, we have about 4 of them that, like the chief said, those just sit on road jobs. They're up there in 100,000, if not more. The fleet vehicles are as well. The most recent vehicles that we purchased, I believe it was 2 years ago, they're getting up there in mileage. So when working with Mike from Enterprise, and I'm going to have him come up next, we identified that there's definitely some options to try to keep a newer fleet. The nice thing about their program is the numbers that you're going to see is a completely built vehicle. So we have numbers of if we were to go to a vendor, acquiring a new vehicle, building it, lettering on it, equipment, and then the numbers they're going to give you are fully upfitted vehicles. Some of the equipment that we can use, we are going to transfer out of vehicles. But the nice thing is about them is they'll work with us. They're monitoring a lot of the stuff that right now we have a supervisor doing. They're going to be able to monitor mileage. They're going to capitalize on, okay, the vehicle's worth X amount of money now, you've had it for X amount of years. Well, maybe we should sell that and capitalize on some of that equity. So, the program, I foresee it being very beneficial. I've spoken to people from all over the country who have said the same thing. It's not just beneficial to the police department. The nice thing is they can acquire all different types of vehicles. So if fire chiefs needed a new vehicle, if public works needed a new pickup truck, it's sort of a town-wide thing that we can incorporate. So with that, I'll have Mike come up and we'll answer any questions afterwards.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Really quick well, first of all, Mike with Enterprise Fleet Management. Been with Enterprise now 21 and a half years. It's been fun. Don't think of, well, you can think of the rental car company. It's a sister company of ours. But we are on the fleet management side. So we work with municipalities, also regular HVAC, commercial, construction companies, things of that nature. But we really want to focus on 2 areas: reducing your cost and improving efficiencies. They set it up really well. I do have some handouts here, but one thing I wanted to point out before I hand this out is you mentioned the term lease. Don't want you to think of a traditional personal dealership style lease. We understand how you're going to use these vehicles. We understand there's multiple drivers. You're going to be running 24/7. We get that. So this is what's called an open-end lease. He mentioned equity. We're going to capture that equity for you. So we're going to identify the right time to sell the vehicle when that equity is highest, to roll it back into the replacement vehicle to further reduce the cost. So Chief said putting good money into bad, that's the operating side of things, right? Maintenance, fuel, downtime, things of that nature. We want to make sure you're putting money into maybe the depreciation of new vehicles rather than maintenance expenses on the other side. So that's one of the key objectives that we're going to try to do is lower your total maintenance cost. I'm going to hand these out, but are there any questions so far with that setup that everybody has? And I ask you not to skip all the way to the end because that's the fun part, that's the number stuff.
That was dangerous to say.
Because that's exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the first couple of slides here, you already,
Yeah, you did.
the first couple you could skip over, but the key objectives there on that 3rd page, that's really where we're going to focus on lowering the average age of your fleet. You'll see on the slide with the chart, if you can go to the fleet profile chart, that's really you're on it right now. I really want to spend a little bit of time there. That is a snapshot of the current fleet. All right, so out of the 24 vehicles that you have, that's the model year in which they were acquired. So the last vehicles we got were 2024. There was only 2 of them. None last year and none for this model year, which is actually 2026 model year. So you're keeping them on an average of 7. They're 7 years old on average, but the average holding period is 12 years based off of your last few year acquisitions. So really what that means is it's taking you 12 years to turn over a vehicle. A little bit too long when it comes to all those things that we're talking about, plus the safety factor, so on and so forth. So we're really gonna try to lower that lower the average age of your fleet while reducing your overall spend. So in speaking with the police commission a couple of times, their last question was, what is this going to look like on an ongoing basis? And that's actually a question that you just had for the other gentleman that was up here. What does this look like, right? Anybody can save money if you're going to lease a vehicle year one, but when those leases start stacking up on each other and you have a whole fleet, what does that look like? So we spent a lot of time and we put together a 10-year fleet planning analysis that you'll see there. I'm not going to go over every single line for you, but I do want to, just explain kind of how that flows out. So currently, under the assumptions bar on the top, you have 24 vehicles in the fleet. Current cycle just under 12 years. Like I said, it takes that long to get out of a vehicle right now on the current acquisition average that you have. Your current maintenance spend is $152 per month per vehicle. Okay? And you're going about 8,000 miles per vehicle with these, but again, the engine hour is really what we're looking at. These are used vehicles. So a 50,000 mile vehicle in your fleet is really an 80 to 100,000 mile vehicle elsewhere, just because they're running really hard. And our numbers are going to show that we're going to try to reduce that from an 11.5 cycle down to 5. So every 5 years, you're going to get a brand new vehicle, fully upfit, turnkey, ready to go. Your guys are ready to do their jobs. And that maintenance cost is going to drop to $55 per month per vehicle. So when you look at year one, and those 8 annual needs, that was just based off of collectively going through the fleet list, understanding what those needs are. What are those the key vehicles that we need to replace year one? And there was 8 of them. So 8 vehicles are going to be now under the lease program. 16 are still owned, so you still have those as owned units. The total lease cost for the entire year, upfit, everything included, is $78,000 for everything. And he was mentioning, one vehicle to buy is about 70 grand. So this is everything all in for those 8 vehicles. The credit on equity owned, that is the amount of money we're going to actually sell your 8 vehicles for you that you're retiring. And that equity will roll into the program to serve as a credit to actually pay for the leases that you're going to be getting on those new vehicles. Your maintenance cost is going to drop because you have 8 brand new vehicles in your fleet. It'll drop to $33,000 for the year. Fuel, $38,000 for a total budget of $66,000. So if this is looking at both operating and CapEx, but if you look at it from just the acquisition side of things or the capital budget side of things, we're actually going to be crediting you about $5,000 to get 8 brand new vehicles. Year 2, 5 brand new leases will go on. So now you still own 11, but you're going to be leasing 13. The lease payments go up to $157. There's again that equity from the owned units that we're going to be selling for you. Maintenance drops, fuel drops again for a total budget of $169. And I won't go through every single line item here, but as you can see, it flows down, and it does seem to stabilize at the end. Now this is a static look at everything. Obviously, we know that things are going to change. So the overarching theme here is that this is an entirely flexible program. There's no contract that says you have to do 8 vehicles and 5 vehicles and 7 vehicles. It is completely open-ended, and we're just going to be providing the guidance throughout the year and ongoing as to which vehicles potentially should be replaced or not each subsequent year. I talked a lot, so I will pause.
Any questions so far? Go ahead, Tricia.
Nope.
If I may, really quick. When we first started looking at this, we were looking at replacing the complete fleet. As the chief said, we have cars that are private duty vehicles. They're up there in mileage. We were looking at 24 vehicles. We can narrow this down.
Yeah,
And
that's
we're
what I
not
was gonna
obligated.
ask, because the
And
chief
what I'm
mentioned.
thinking is now that if we were to do something like this, we have 5-year-old vehicles that we can have on road jobs that we know are gonna be going away in a year or so. 4-year-old vehicles, we know they're gonna be going away. So we could scale back the fleet, keeping a few spares, keeping what we have currently, and knocking that number from 24 down to maybe 20, and knocking the first year down to maybe try to get 5 new vehicles. The price we're gonna pay for year 1 currently, 8 new vehicles, is what we're looking at for 1 vehicle fully built, so we could definitely scale it back.
I have to. How? How is that possible? I feel
Yeah.
like I'm getting snowed.
Yeah.
So we're looking at not buying a full vehicle, right? You're going to be leasing a vehicle, so your $70,000 vehicle is only going to be, I don't have the, oh yes I do.
Roughly 10 grand, right?
About for an Explorer 4x4, $1,100 a month. For the Interceptor fully upfit, $1,300 a month. You have a couple of other Jeeps and everything, $600 a month. So when you chop it down, those lease payments are extremely low. So that's where the acquisition budget comes in. You're not buying these vehicles; you're leasing them for a monthly payment.
Now we have
I'm not gonna take up time here. Someone later can show me how the hell to read this, cause I'm,
This was just a proof of concept type of a model that they were asked for last time. Hey, year one, the next slide with the yellow, you'll see year one, $78,000. It's the total monthly payment's going to be about $6,500 times 12. So that's for those 8 brand new vehicles. That's the breakdown. But then it was, okay, well, what happens year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? How does this all shake out? So the 10-year model is a proof of concept that just shows, okay, worst case scenario, and that means every single vehicle is going to get the brand new upfit, which we all know some things can transfer over year by year. If it's a 5-year-old vehicle, you could probably transfer over some of that equipment. But we just used brand new equipment on everything, and we used conservative values for resale, things of that nature. But what would that look like in a 10-year flow? You lease 8 this year, you lease 5 next year. That's 13 leases. Then you have 20 leases, and so what would that look like on an ongoing basis?
But in this program, you guys decide when the maximum time to sell, and we'll suppose we wanted to keep that car or move it to
Yep.
a different usage. We have to sell it in this program because you're saying, hey, you hit the peak mark of value. You got to sell this. You got to turn this car in. Does that happen?
Great question. Thank you. No. So we are just providing recommendations. We're going to say based off of, here's the industry. That vehicle can sell right now for about $23,000. You only owe 10 on it. Do you want to sell it now and get the 13 grand and roll it, or do you want to keep it moving?
Okay.
And we kind of talk that through in our annual reviews and things of that nature. But whatever you decide to do, fully your options. Yeah. They're strictly recommendations. And if you think about it, the year that you bought 4, which was
Year 4.
2023, you bought 4 brand new vehicles.
Correct.
Probably cost $280,000 out of your capital budget.
Yeah.
If you go down and you look at, fully implemented year 10, it's $214,000, and that includes all your operating expenses, right? So we're in the ballpark of what you did in your years that you bought only 4. But that's for a fully managed fleet for 24 vehicles with operating included. So, yeah,
Which would be the second cycle of 5 years.
correct. So that you're right. That's
Right.
vehicle number 2, almost 3, and year 11 would be the 3rd vehicle. So,
Math is hard for me, so I'm just mapping out over here.
well, you wanted the numbers. What happened?
No, I just did the math for the
Yeah.
police interceptor, and after 5 years, you're still looking at the total
Okay.
cost of $80,000 fully outfitted. So we're just spreading the cost out over 5 years.
Sure.
We're not really getting a reduction,
Right.
per se. We're just spreading that cost out.
Well,
And that's, so then,
can you
I would
explain-
want to look at the maintenance
Can you
as
explain
well.
that math real quick, though, before we
Yeah,
get
so
started?
the 2026 Police Interceptor Utility 4x4, the monthly payment's
Yep.
1317.
Yep.
By 12 months, by 5 years, you're looking at $79,020.
But you're not counting, so at year 5 you sell it for you, and you're going to have about $25,000 of equity coming back to support.
But we could do that now if we,
Well,
technically, right?
you
Could we sell?
you
Trade
could
it
buy
in.
8
Right,
vehicles
so we
right
would
now.
do, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, it's funding,
It's
right?
the
So you
management.
identify the holding,
No,
when do you
yeah,
need to replace
for
the
sure.
vehicles? You have to replace 5 years because that's the lowest total cost of ownership. How do you do that? Well, you got to buy more vehicles. Where's the money coming from? So you utilize this alternative funding mechanism, lease, to get the amount of vehicles you need into the program without paying for them cash. If you can pay for them cash, great. But unfortunately, with all the other townships that we work with also, that's not feasible. So that's why we put together the leasing mechanism.
Yeah, I think, for me, I would just want to see currently what we're spending on
maintenance.
maintenance for the vehicles, what we would, what the plan would be to replace if we were going to buy for the next, and knowing that obviously, we've talked about those have gotten cut over the
Current maintenance
last.
budget's about $60,000. In the last 4 years, it's gone up from about $45,000 to about $60,000.
'cause the
That's
car's
for the
getting
whole- the
older
whole
and
fleet.
they're just gonna get worse, and it'll just get worse based on the year of the car.
The vendor to do the work. Chief?
Yeah, where we take.
That, and as your cars get older,
Right.
you're just gonna have more maintenance, so that's.
We're trying to find a radiator for one now.
And so, now what happens if, say we total a car?
That's insurance. That's a completely different something. I'm sure you're self-insured, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, but,
Yeah, so they would settle it out. If it's total, then whatever the value is, I guess, if the coverage and the insurance would pay that out. That's just a claim, just like you would a total one today.
Remember now, the only difference with this is once you don't own anything
right,
after, so everything will be leased out, right, so. But you still have equity in it. So this board can make that decision, but other boards in the future are gonna live with whatever budget you're gonna throw out there.
And we would be fully leased in the first 5 years, right? Does that,
so to get out of that, we would have to buy the whole fleet of vehicles to come back the other way. Yeah,
You have to cycle, right?
the number of cars that we would own and lease, to get to zero owned, it would take 5 years.
That's
At
the way
that
they
point,
ran
what
That's
happens?
the way they ran the model, you
That's
don't have
this
to run
model.
it this
We don't
way.
have to
Yeah.
do it
Right.
this
Yeah.
exact
No.
way, right?
Not at all.
We could,
You could
that's my, part of my
And-
question.
Yeah, this is us saying, yeah, in year 7, you're gonna need 2 more patrol, that might not be the case, right? So, yeah, this is just a proof of
Yeah, yeah.
concept.
Then we'd have to go whether buying 2 in year 7 is, or go add more from this program. We'd have to look at it at that point,
Yeah.
in that scenario that you're talking about.
Yes, and we're
Right.
not a dealer, we're more of a ongoing partner. That's
So
gonna
let-
work
let-
with you
Can we
guys.
buy, no, so that's the question, so we can buy the lease at the end? or
Yeah,
no?
so that covers what you just mentioned.
Right,
So
yeah.
you said we don't technically own them. That is true because we hold title as we lease, but they are
Right.
registered to you guys.
Correct.
And you have
But we
ownership
can buy-
rights to them,
Right.
meaning
We can buy
equity.
the lease, right.
Right, so you either buy it out at any point, keep it forever until it, because essentially this is a lease, but it's open-ended, so you're paying down the principal of the vehicle. So it depreciates down ultimately, if you kept it long enough, to 0, just like a finance. At that point, you want the title, we flip the title, it's yours, you paid for it. Or you leverage us to sell it and then get on that program, but it's really just to help get back on some sort of a healthy rotation.
No, understood.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Al.
so I have a question for you. With a lease, there's always a lease factor or the finance rate with a finance, right?
Absolutely.
So, what is the lease factor with these 8 cars in the first year? Or like, what
Yeah,
is
it's built into the monthly payment.
Right.
Right, so you have your interest rate, and then there's, obviously, we're a for-profit company, so there's a management fee. So our profit is baked into that as well.
No, right. So,
Yeah.
so what is the rate?
We're based off of the 3-year treasury bill, and that's at time of delivery, so it's 3-year treasury bill, and the last slide shows that you're a member of Sourcewell, so they've negotiated down, I believe it's 300 basis points, 3-year treasury bill plus 300 basis points at time of delivery. So
Right. So that's the
these
money
days
factor.
it's about 7-ish,
7%.
7-ish, 7.5.
That's what I'm getting
Yeah,
at. 'Cause
somewhere
I
around
like to
there.
convert that to a finance rate because I can wrap my head around that better than a money factor. So,
Okay.
so it's about 7 to 7.5%.
Because whatever, like you said, about whatever decision we make, folks have to live with later. Can I,
And there's also a lot that goes into that as well. Fleet incentives that we're able to get for you on the front end because we are enterprise fleet management. Just different efficiencies that we're going to be able to. That 7% is just, it's made up pretty quickly. Sorry, is that cut you off?
this isn't a question for you, this is my ignorance with the town, since I've been off the Board of Finance for so long. When I was on the Board of Finance and I know before, I'm not saying that it needs to stay this way, but for years and years, for as long as I remember, the replacing 2 and 3 every year was, we were always told by the police department it was an excellent system, so what happened with that?
That fell by the wayside a few years ago, and when I first came out, it was just, if we had money left over, let's buy a car. And we've been kind of scraping by that way ever since. And, I put in for vehicles, and usually that's one of the first things to go. Last year, we didn't get a car.
First thing to go from the Board of Finance?
Yeah.
That and the overtime.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's a good.
They're doing what they can.
That's a good point because if we get the fleet down to 20, 21, whatever it is, 4 a year is a 5-year cycle.
Right.
Every year you get 4, but the problem was, and if you go back a couple to the fleet profile, it was 4, then 1, then 4, then 0, then 4, then 2.
It was
So
all over
every
the
year you're
place.
up and
Wasn't
down.
consistent.
Which is typical when we go in and meet. You know, they're all over the place because it is what it is. What do we have this year? 70 grand. All right, let's get one.
Also, the 2-3-2-3, I mean, you gotta understand too, that the cost to buy a vehicle and to outfit a vehicle is going up. So, I mean, what was what 2 vehicles cost, say, 5 years ago is not what they cost today. So that just is gonna keep going up.
I mean, this program.
Well, I
is
mean, I
really-
imagine that was the case like 20 years ago too, because that program was running for a really long time.
Yeah, and it works, but
We've reached a point,
where
okay.
if we had leftover money, we bought it, and if we didn't, we didn't.
Okay.
So we were able to find some cars some years and get them.
Yeah, and another thing about this, we're trying to get to more of a predictable budgeting standpoint, right? How are we going to kind of know where we're going to be within a smaller margin? And this is really going to help us get to that manageable, predictable.
How firm are the numbers that you have presented here?
They're firm today, but again, this is static. So next year things change, and the market changes, incentives
course.
change, cost of vehicles change.
But these numbers that you're showing right now today, if we agreed to do this, these are the numbers we're looking at for today.
Yes, sir.
For 8 vehicles.
Nobody says we have to do 8.
Correct.
Yeah, I would probably would agree to that anyway.
How long
I
has
don't
the
know if I can
program
agree
been
to that
going
part.
on, and where you've received, I know that this is kind of newer to you when you went, but like how long has the program been
That was
going
the
on?
first that I had heard about it. Enterprise has been around for quite some time. How long?
It all started in 1957. Yeah, so we've been leasing vehicles. We started as a leasing company in 57. We stumbled across the rental thing, and that obviously worked out pretty well for us. But we've been working with municipalities in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut is the market that I kind of see. Probably 18 years.
Okay, so the folks you've been speaking with across the country, how long have they been using the program where they're very satisfied with it? Because if it's 2 years, that doesn't, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean as much to me as someone who might be in the program for 15 or 20 years with the market fluctuations.
There's some that have been with them for longer than 5 years. In Connecticut, they're on the municipal side, getting into the law enforcement realm. I did speak to the chief in Clinton, who's been a vendor for 2 years now, and he's been able to replace 10 vehicles in their fleet in the past 2 years.
Connecticut's a little trickier than other states. So it started in the little, I guess, easier states to work through around the country. And it's kind of made its way now, and finally, remember Sourcewell, we won that bid. Everybody's been piggybacking off of that contract, so now it's starting to really pick up steam. So, yeah.
So I'm just worried about the markets.
Well,
For the future, I'm just worried about the markets, because that changes things drastically
Yeah.
from affordable to tight to this is great to this is absolutely horrid, that we got ourselves locked into
And
this,
that's where
so.
having the flexibility of saying, okay, we're gonna do 4 vehicles next year. Okay, well then if the market does change, well maybe we scale it back, we do 1 or 2, and we just prolong it a little longer.
But I
Yeah.
think what is inflexible about this, though, is we can choose not to buy a car next year. With this, we would still be paying a lease on all of those vehicles, so we're not, while it is predictable, we have a little bit less flexibility within our budget to be able to dictate what we're doing. We're locked in, so,
Just for the ones that have
Well,
already been
yeah,
purchased.
the 70,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so if we did 8, we would be locked in for that price, and then that's not, we can't really plan in the out years. Just kind of eat that cost every year.
Has there ever been a year that has been lower than that, I guess? Available budget for vehicles or for the department, or? Like, I don't know the typical
No.
budget amount, but, just
No.
think about it.
Well, that's the cost of 1 vehicle.
Yeah.
And historically, we've done the 2-3-3-2, we've tried to budget that. In years where we've had extra money in the 110 line, we've swept that down and bought the car for the next year, the current year's budget. We did things like that, but you're still fully outfitting, looking at $70,000 a car, give or take. So even if we're paying cash, in this scenario,
Yeah.
is the key number, and trying to figure out what these cars are actually worth. So we went around and tried to see what we could come up with. The numbers are definitely in the ballpark. So I'm not gonna say that they're inflated by them just to try to make a sale, because if you take the owned equity out of it, then to your point, we're just leasing cars. So the key thing for this is actually having a managed fleet program. To the point where we were talking, we'll probably take this out of the police department's budget and create a town-wide fleet management system. Maybe not even maintained by the police department, perhaps Joel Mechanic at Public Works. I mean, we're fortunate to have someone with his ability there. We may put him in charge of fleet maintenance. And he's the one now that different departments are going to, and as the points were made, if we need additional vehicles for other, let's say fire, any of our code enforcement guys, anything like that, we can now create an entire program all managed by Public Works. So it just, I think it gives a little bit more consistency. We do have old cars. We made a conscious effort 4 or 5 years ago to stop using the hand-me-down police cars. By the time those were handed down, those were terrible. Right? Those were just absolutely destroyed. So we kind of put a program in place, but we can't make it consistent. This makes it a little bit more consistent, a little bit more manageable with an understanding of what these costs could be. So, for Bob and Trish, for the strategic planning part of this, you can get an idea of what costs could be for 10 years. And then we could pivot based on whatever conditions arise that year. And to the point that were made, it may say that we're going to buy 11 cars in fiscal 27. Well, maybe we don't do that. Maybe it only makes sense to buy 8. But that's where the conversations with the department head and what we'll call the fleet manager, and then with you folks in the Board of Finance, that's where those determinations are.
Make a strategic decision, Kurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep rolling these
We
cars
have a
over.
plan, we have to
Right.
use it.
Because again.
Yeah, I'm not
this-
adverse, I mean, it looks like a good plan, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, Jay gave it a, because when it first came in, I don't mean, because we're talking right in front of you, but Jay just kind of, but then he kind of broke the numbers down, looked at it and said, well, hey, this kind of makes sense, we have to come back. We had some more conversations on it, and the more he kind of dug into it, the more comfortable he became.
Did we get that analysis from Jay?
Yeah, I can have Jay write something up for you, so.
I want to take a look too, to see what the costs are for what we're paying now and what his analysis is for it.
And then I understand why they jumped on the 8 right out of the gate, because you're trying to get the 15s and 18s kind of.
The goal is to turn over the fleet as fast as we can, on the rear side. That's what we'd like to do.
And the nice thing is some of the vehicles you'll see in there, the makes, models, they're off because those are technically, they're trying to replace some of the detective vehicles as well as some of the patrol vehicles, because the detective vehicles are up there in mileage as well, so. And we're just throwing money into that, so.
Who currently provides the maintenance for your vehicles?
So right now we use auto repairs
Okay.
down in Ansonia,
Yep.
and they have been absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
What they do is they identify if it is under warranty, and then we ship it up to the dealership to get it
Good.
covered under warranty, so. And that aspect will not change for us. Our hope is to try to get him as one of their suppliers to do all the maintenance for us.
Oh, so that has to be approved by Enterprise in order to continue with the current vendor?
No, you guys can use the vendor that you want. I guess the point would be, if you guys are that happy with him and he's great, maybe we do bring him into our network so others can benefit from that.
Yeah, because isn't it state law, you can pick who you want?
Of course.
What kind of car.
Yeah, you can use whoever. I mean, if you weren't happy or you thought, hey, price this out for me, I'm not too sure, we would provide other options for you. But yeah,
Sure.
if you're happy with your guy and
You
you
have a
trust him and
stable.
everything,
You have a stable.
go for
Yeah.
it. Absolutely.
They
Yeah.
find, they right off the rip, check and see, make sure it's covered under warranty, and then they
Yeah.
tell us.
Nice.
A lot of the conversation just in the last part here had to do with strategy and forecasting and planning and the advisory part of it. And I never met the new fleet manager or maintenance person. I'm sure he's great. You guys, finance is an awesome team here. You guys will get a strategy manager from us as well. All of us have worked in the branches. All of us has managed our own fleets, right? And they're going to be meeting on a monthly, quarterly, whatever cadence you'd like, but providing these annual client reviews, these fleet planning meetings, what's going on in the market. The Explorers have a great incentive this year, no incentive, hold off, don't do that. They're going to be ongoing strategic meetings that we have with you to better suit the fleet moving forward. So it's not like we're trying to just sell metal and thank you, I'll see you next year when you need more cars. We are a full partner, and that's what we pride ourselves on. That's the experience that the other clients have that you met. And that's really the true value here. Anybody can sell a vehicle, anybody can lease a vehicle. But, you know, when you're coming from Enterprise, all of us have worked in the branches, managed our fleets, and have, you know, done all that, so.
Do you currently have any clients in the 50-mile radius of Seymour?
Oh, yeah.
Besides, I mean, you mentioned Clinton. Anybody closer or
Yeah,
any
50
addition-
miles. Don't hold this against me. I'm not a Connecticut guy.
That's right.
But Clinton, Westport, Stratford. There's one more that I'm forgetting, and then there's about 3 that I'm waiting to make sure that they're allowing me to say their names. One of them is pretty large, so I could get you more info. Contact people if you'd like to speak with them.
That'd be great. That'd be
But
excellent.
talking in 10-year relationships, 15-year relationships, someone mentioned something, I can get you some names of people that have been with us for the long haul, especially pre-COVID, because that was something where that just rocked the world of everybody. And being a company who manages not only other people's fleets, but we have 2 million of our own, right? Rental cars. We have to manage those really well too. So timing the market, what's going on, when do we replace, do we hold them, that's all things that we do. We built that infrastructure up for ourselves, selfishly, on that side of the business. And now we're just going out and saying, hey, leverage what we already have, the infrastructure, the expertise, the knowledge, to really piggyback off of that. So.
Interesting.
Possible action. So do you want them to come back? Let's, possible action, we will get a analysis from Jay on that. And then what would,
Next meeting, I would be comfortable once seeing the information at our meeting on the 17th, making a decision, as long as we get the information.
I think so too.
I think the 17th, we would make the, okay?
Is there any info needed from us? I know you mentioned Jay is going to get some stuff.
If you can get us a full list, I know you said there's a couple people that you have to wait for, but like your bigger ones.
Your references.
Your
okay.
references that you can look at.
Sure. Anything on the numbers side? Validating costs or anything, or?
Well, I mean, with the, if you can get us the list of people that you're using, the municipalities that you're using, and the cost, there it is, and if we can get something from them to say, yes, this is what we're paying, cause anybody can write a letter, right? Say, oh yeah,
Exactly.
we're using it, but we need to see the actual figures, the actual cost as to what it's actually costing them, and it's actually saving them.
Like
to
DC
see.
Fabiano's already done with Clinton, you said? Yeah.
Okay.
Rerun the numbers with 20, or with whatever the number you were gonna back it out to.
Anything else you wanted to say?
Sorry, rerun the numbers with 20 cars instead of the 24.
Yeah.
Whatever you put, whatever number. Is that a comfortable number for the police department, 20?
I think so. Right now, we have, I wanna say, 4 vehicles that are strictly 100,000 miles on them. They're strictly road job. They're parked. They do make us some money. The contractors pay to have the lights there. By scaling it back, knowing that we have more newer vehicles lined up X amount of years, I would feel comfortable being able to scale back the number. We're gonna replace them anyway. It doesn't, we really don't want a car just sitting there 8 hours idling or 12 hours idling on a job. It kills the car. It really does. So that's why we kinda use those spares. But if we're gonna be, like you said, trading it in and not worrying about that, then we probably scale it.
How many cars do we usually have out any given day?
Yeah.
4. We have a 5-man minimum, so one's a dispatcher. We have 4 on the road. And then with road jobs, as you've seen driving around, there's road jobs everywhere. So a lot of the contractors like to have the vehicles there for the light element. We could have anytime from 6 more vehicles out there, detectives out as well. So there could be 10+ vehicles. Depending on how much private duty, we've run out of vehicles. We've run out. So officers have to take their own cars.
The lease, does it have any, like penalties if we don't follow maintenance rules or anything like that, surprise type of situation? These are municipal, emergency vehicles that are under a lot of strain, but is there anything like that we'd have to, like, our fleet management would have to be aware of?
So on the lease itself, no. on the manufacturer side, if you try to get an engine repaired and they say you never had an oil change in 80,000 miles, they would deny the oil change in the engine, right? But no, as far as us do all that. Now, if you wanted, we could provide, if we have the data, we could provide oil change reminders, recall notice, all that stuff, we could do that for you. But in order to get that, we would need the mileage either through a fuel card or
Okay.
manual update. Then we know the trends and we can take over. But as far as like breaking the contract, no, you maintain it your own way.
Okay.
Ford might have a problem if you don't get that done. But yeah,
Right.
yeah, we're good.
Thank you so much
No, my
for your
pleasure.
time.
Thank you guys.
Does anybody else have any questions for the chief regarding his report that he gave, whether it was on the police outsourcing the vehicles or his report on the police department?
Oh, just thank you for bringing this back.
I have to ask. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, can you give us an update on Tri-Town and make sure your mic is on and it's the green light and, thank you. Can you give us an update on Tri-Town? It doesn't have to be an executive session.
Briefly, as you know, the action remains pending between, Rebecca. The town initiated a tri-town lawsuit by bringing a complaint due to the light conditions as well as building code violations against both the owner of the property and the tenant of the property. The owner of the property then brought a separate claim as part of that lawsuit against the tenant of the property for breach of the lease and long-term lease for various reasons. The town resolved its claim against both parties. However, the claim brought by the property owner against its tenant remains pending and in fact is scheduled to start trial a week from today on the 10th of February.
Where's that, Brian? Bridgeport? In
And
Stony Milford?
Judge Bellis this morning, earlier today, denied a motion for continuance filed
Shocking.
by the tenant.
Shocking.
They were claiming that this was in Europe, it was granted somewhere in Europe, it was open aid or something. And wanted the case continued, and she denied that.
Good luck with her.
That's starting, it's been long enough for you two litigating. Counsel for the owner filed something with the court today, reporting back, indicating that the case did not settle and there was no need for a further pretrial conference between it and the tenant. Nonetheless, they would speak privately, but they're prepared to start on the 10th.
Nice.
So, is that tied into the town at all? It's just between the owner and the
And most will have, town.
so this is just an FYI?
Yeah.
You're rooting
Very
for
nice.
the landlord,
But it's something where I ask for an
not the
update.
tenant.
It's why we're not in executive session, because the town is not involved in it.
Correct.
The most of our involvement would be if Mr. Baldwin or a representative of the town would testify about documents.
Right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Any other does anybody have any questions? Thank you. That was your update you wanted. Discussion and, Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding the potential lien for the sale of the by the WPCA. You have in you, the WPCA, Brian, help me out here, the WPCA has, asked that we sell liens, for bills that have not been paid to by them going all the way back several years. Jim, we have the chair here.
Yeah, by state statute, you're allowed to sell WPCA liens that are either 3 years from the date the lien is filed, 3 years or more from the date the lien is filed, or $3,000 or more is filed. And they remain a priority lien. It's similar to the sale of tax liens people do, and this lien can be sold to an individual who would come in, step in the shoes of the municipality, and then would have rights to foreclose the liens against
And Jim, if you can come up to the mic, please, as a chair, sorry.
I'm gonna be drilled.
No, I just, so the WPCA sent letters out to the people that had liens on their homes.
Yes. Some people did pay when they saw that. It enhanced payments. Some just don't wanna pay. So,
When did you initially send the liens out? Cause I'm wondering if before we go, when we authorize these liens, that we just make sure that the liens that we are giving that we are selling are actually there's money owed on them, that people haven't paid on them, and we're not selling liens that we're already paid on. I just wanna make sure we're
They were-
verifying, double checking and
right,
triple checking.
Attorney Croto was checking, the whole list, and he was, I guess there's some discrepancies, but they're supposed to be going through it and see what's going on with it, so. It's over $1 million.
That is a lot of money, right? And I understand from being on the WPCA, when I was on the WPCA, there was a lot of liens back then. However, I just wanna make sure, before we go and we go in to get an RFQ and we say, okay, Joe Chiskanowski, lien seller, here you
Right.
go, you got it. That, that these per people who already paid their liens off or have less than 3,000 on their liens are not gonna, they're not bothered.
Right.
So, that's all.
Yeah,
Maybe
Attorney
we should-
Croto was supposed to fine tune it and find out exactly.
Maybe we should wait until he's done with that project and making sure that his payments are coming in, just to keep that clean.
It's an ongoing thing. Some people just randomly pay, after they got that letter.
How many people are we talking for $1 million? Roughly, ballpark.
I think, was it like 2,000?
2,000?
1,000 households.
2,000, 2,000,
That can't be right.
bills, I think, wasn't it?
That can't be right.
It was up there.
Less than
Probably
half
not
of Seymour
2,000.
is on
Yeah,
It was high.
sewer.
so,
2,000?
I think it was a little below that.
And only half the town is on it.
Not even half.
Not
This
even
is,
half.
this has been going on for
No, I
a
understand.
real long
I
time,
know.
even with the sale of the lane thing. So, like,
Yeah, around-
the recommendation where, if you have some contingencies that you want us to do, we're kind of looking for the board approval, so we can just take the next step, because there's no reason for us to be chasing the liens on our end at this point, from a WPCA standpoint.
All right. Somebody else do it.
I mean,
Just some people just don't wanna pay.
Yeah, it's a lot of administrative work for
Yeah.
you guys to try to pursue.
Right.
if there's contingencies where you wanna make sure that we have it right, I'm all in, but we'd really be looking for the board just to, let's get this off the
After that is
mark.
done, after that's verified by
We've
Attorney
kind of
Croto.
exhausted this for X amount of years
Sure.
now.
To Anne Marie's point, though, if someone does end up on that list that has paid in the interim, is it easy enough to get them off that list?
You
with
just
them
say
by
in the
proof of
letter,
payment?
Trish,
I
you'd
don't
say, if you've already paid this, ignore the letter. If it was sent in error, no?
Well,
Yeah, if they
no,
can
'cause
prove
now,
payment,
now
yeah.
you're selling
If
the
they can
liens.
prove- if they can
Right.
prove the
You've
payment.
read those stories, right, where there's a lien, but they've actually paid, but it wasn't actually settled and resolved and proven until after the house
Oh,
was
right,
taken.
right, right.
So that's what we wanna make sure we're
So
avoiding.
they have a clear title on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long ago did we send those letters out?
It was a few months ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can we just explain the process on record, how the lien sale works? We have a person in Seymour who has a water and sewer bill over $3,000 for 3 years.
I think it was the amount, we just went by the amount, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think
3,000.
we
Just
were
over
only
3,000.
over the
Yeah.
amount.
And then if they haven't paid, then
was-
we're going to sell a lien to someone. How does it legally work, and how do we benefit? How does it work?
So, we have to go out for an RFQ, right, to different lien holders. So that, I know the WPCA sent out letters, and they have been sending out letters, hey, you owe. And before it was, if you're 31 days past due, they put a lien on your house. They send you a lien, which I thought was a little ridiculous, because 31 days is kind of
It's
silly.
not a lot of
right?
time.
90 days, I would understand. 31 days, not so much, or a year even. But they still, and nevertheless, they did the 31 days. And then they would just keep adding the liens and the interest onto the house. And they would send out the bills. And some people would pay the bills, but then some people couldn't pay the bills. So now all of a sudden we have over $1 million.
But this is over the course of how many years now? Like,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
this is
Some are
years.
several years
10,
old.
10,
Yes.
15,
Yeah.
10,
So
15
just-
years,
So
yeah.
the question is, between a letter a couple of months ago and action today is not relatively, hey, you just gave me the letter, now you're taking action.
No.
This has been going on for decades.
Right, so then they resent out, I think it was before Christmas, they sent out saying, hey, we are going to sell your liens. We are going to sell the lien to a lien holder, and you're no longer gonna owe us the money. They're gonna pay the debt, and then,
You're
and
gonna owe
then
that
you're gonna
company.
owe this
Correct.
person the money.
Yeah.
Because everybody's like, can you lower the interest? And the state of Connecticut has a set interest. It's just like you're late on your taxes. It's a set interest. So if you have a lien on your property from not paying your sewer taxes, these liens would be sold to these. So, go ahead.
Okay. I know, I just, you can keep it.
Okay. So they sell the liens, and now these lien holders have them, but I just wanna make sure that they receive the letters you owe, they receive the late payments you owe, they receive new bills, they receive the letter your lien.
No,
the
I
liens
understand that, I
sold.
just wanna know.
So you're talking about
I
due
want the
process to
be
make
I
sure
followed.
wanna make
people
sure
have
the due
notice,
process is
right?
done.
Did we put a deadline on when the lien would be sold in those letters?
I don't know.
It was kinda like a warning letter,
Yeah,
Right,
it
because
was
I think
more-
to your
it was
point,
more
then at
warning.
least we give
Yeah.
them a fair, hey, if you didn't pay by this point, we're selling them.
just to make them aware it
Yeah,
could
it was
happen.
more of a warning.
Well, you would
Yeah.
talk to the company about that, and what your process is, and how do you give them one last
Yeah.
notice, and then 90 days from today, we're doing whatever, or,
Yeah, I think that would make me more
mean,
comfortable. I think I obviously see,
I mean, that's what most companies do, right, Brian, when you sell them? There's a legal process to it.
They make their money faster.
Yeah.
If people just pay. So the
Right.
people are, the company has no greater power than the town, Seymour does. So we can go out, if there's a lien on Mr. X's house, and he comes, and we foreclose on it as a WPCA, they can do that, they can foreclose the lien. You can't negotiate the price, it's that plus interest, plus now he's paying attorney's fees and things on top of that. He's gonna pay the same thing to a company that bought the lien. They're not gonna get a penny more from him, Mr. X, than we can get from him in that foreclosure. But in fact, we talked about defenses, that is a defense. You can always raise a defense in any foreclosure that I paid the debt off and it's not owed. You have to show proof, whether we bring it or a lien collection company buys it. It's not automatic, and they're just stepping into our shoes, frankly. It's the same rights we have. These are older, these are 3+ years, so people have gotten it off as you send out bills over and over and over and over on this. So
and what does the town do with that $1 million if we sell off the lien?
It doesn't come to us, it goes to
That's
WPCA.
Yeah, okay.
So they can use it for, they can use it for capital, they can use it for improvements.
Sorely
Which we have
needed
plenty.
updates,
I would say,
upgrades.
which we need.
Yeah, it just,
Yeah.
for my information.
Yeah.
So this is hurting the WPCA because they're not able to maintain their facilities because people don't pay their bills after they provided the service as promised. That's the bottom line.
Well, I don't know if I would use maintain, but it's harder to, with the new PFAS regulations coming in, they're gonna have to eventually build a new PFAS building in there, which is gonna have to have
That's
a
a whole
treatment
nother
for,
issue.
yeah,
That's what I mean,
right,
maintenance.
yeah. Or, the
Physical plant.
sludge handler,
Physical plant, yeah.
the physical plant.
Yep. That's what I'm talking about.
It's getting older, so.
it could be another thing you have to consider is they may have to borrow money that they otherwise wouldn't have to because they don't have $1 million. So now it's costing the community more because they have to.
It's really costing the
Subsidize
ratepayer
the-
more, yeah, it's causing the
people who
ratepayer
aren't
more.
paying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Back to life, you gotta pay.
so basically we have the resolution providing the assignment of Seymour Water Pollution Control Authority liens. The board's pleasure is to, what is the board's pleasure is to move forward with the authority, the authorization to have them do the liens, or do we want one more letter to go out stating by March 31st, you have to send out, you have to have your lien paid, and if not, then on April 1st, we will sell your liens. In the meantime, we go out for RFQs for the lien holders.
Do you think you can get it done in that timeframe, Anne Marie?
Well, if it's gonna go consecutively, and so if that's the case and you're proving the next step, right?
Yep.
And we're going to send out a notification, and then send out the RFQ to the lien holds, then that would get us off. the
Just
mark.
still
Are you good with
feels-
that?
I think so. I mean, I think
You
that
and
the
Jane good
investment
with that?
compromise, so.
Yeah, and from now till then, some people might pay too, so.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
It did spark some payments though when that letter went out.
That's good.
Yeah, I think if we
So-
put a letter out and say, hey, we're selling by this point, give people their due process.
I just wanna get I wanna get it, if we're gonna do it,
Yeah.
I wanna get it moving.
100%, I agree.
It sounds like
I
they've
agree.
had multiple letters, Bray, so I'm
Yeah,
not
we've
all
been-
that concerned about notice at
Well,
this point,
just
but
here's your
just to be
one-
safe.
Here's your last,
Just to
your
be
last,
safe.
This
just
was
to be
what
safe.
But this is what buys them, we have to go the RFQ route anyway, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be a little bit of.
Yeah, I
time
think if
there,
we do,
so-
I think we go RFQ and send that last letter out at the same time. Maybe
What's-
we recoup some of that money and then,
What's the advantage of putting the lien, I mean, are there companies that are eager to say, hey, listen, this is, so it's an eager situation for the lien company to come and do it? Okay, so that would be, the most positive is, the WPCA gets that $1 million almost immediately.
Well,
if
once the deal's done,
If
they
all the liens are sold, right?
once you decide on the company that proposed the purchase of them.
Okay.
I think we go out for the RFQ, and while we're going out for the RFQ, we send that letter by the end of the March, by the end of the last day,
Oh, listen,
Oh.
I'm writing it down.
by the last day of March, then that gives, to me, that gives them a little bit of February and March. I mean, you knew that it was coming. And
they've gotten plenty of, we don't need to give them a long runway, but
No, they've
How
got-
long,
no,
how
Yeah.
long till these letters could go out? Immediately? Like tomorrow?
But they can go up for the monthly bill, right? I mean, the next monthly bill.
See if
Well, it's
Attorney
February
Proto
4th,
can
I mean,
It'll be up
work
to-
with Viola.
It'll be up to WPCA, but I assume they can get them out relatively quick.
Yeah, I think
Week or two.
last time it
A
was.
week or
Yeah,
two,
you have to
okay, because
update
she said,
that list.
Yeah.
I
mean,
said
make
we
sure
get
the
part of
letter or the
February, I just
envelope
wanted
has
a
like
time
final
frame of how the
notice or
letters get
something
out.
like blaring on it, so
Yeah.
people don't set it aside.
Right.
I would,
We'll
Yeah.
let Attorney Proto know tomorrow, and then get a time frame.
Great.
Alright.
But just to be clear, so, deadline is 3/31/26.
Mhm.
April 1st, the intention is we would sell them to the winner of the RFP.
Well, April
Does
1st.
that give us enough time to get the RFQ back?
30 days.
I don't know how long it takes. I don't write them, so.
But that's kind of what the
Yeah.
budget board is.
Yeah, I mean, we go out for an RFQ middle of February, and we give 30 days for someone to write what they're gonna do, to bid on it, it's 30 days. And then we'll know mid-March who we're going to go with, then,
Will we know by our meeting, our second meeting in March? I don't know what the date of that is, but.
To be safe, you might
Well,
wanna
probably
bump it
be
up
the
another month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
17th, right?
by April
first of
7th,
the- Yeah.
April 7th, we can say who was awarded
more-
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you can award on April 7th. and
we'll
then
award on April 7th.
They've had their warning and its time has passed.
And then if the person got the letter of the warning and the, incoming sale of the lien, if they walked down to WPCA and paid that bill, their receipt would get them off the hook?
Yeah, if they paid it in full,
I guess that's an attorney question.
right?
I'm sorry, we were discussing the.
Yeah, the company would have to be notified.
Did you hear the question or?
No, we were talking about the resolution.
So if somebody gets a letter, and then they get the sale of the, the copy of the lien, they get the letter, and they go down and they pay their lien,
Then there's no lien to be sold, correct?
then there's
Right,
no
the
lien to
lien
be
wouldn't
sold.
go
So
out
their
with
receipt,
the-
but
Yeah, they
people
paid
want
it
their
on the-
assurances, so their receipt say, hey, listen, I don't have a lien, I'm not gonna get a lien because I paid in
There's
full.
gonna be a line in the sand that, they're gonna buy the liens at X dollars effective this date. So if
specific
there's no more
date.
liens, you can't sell.
Correct.
You pay your taxes.
Right, right.
The day before the lien sale, there's nothing for them to buy, they can't, there's nothing they.
Okay.
They're only stepping in our shoes. The day after you pay, the town, the Seymour WPCA has no right the next day to start foreclosing or collection because you paid yesterday. Whether, if we sold that lien, there's no lien to sell, that lien went away.
Okay.
They're not.
But say they came in April 8th and paid it, then it's too late, yeah?
Well, they would
So
have to
the lien-
pay,
If we sold, the moment we transfer, the town transfers to a lien, it's their lien.
right,
We don't have any.
they'd
rights
have to
on it.
pay to the lien.
The lien
whatever
company.
The lien holder.
Okay.
Who may have a higher interest rate than the
It's
12
like
or,
you assign, it's like, you owe me money on a mortgage, and
please don't do that.
Bad move.
It's now him, he steps in my shoes, he has full rights. It
Thank you,
happens all the
Miller.
time with mortgages. You don't pay the first guy, you pay the second guy.
So what's the difference of me making, what's the incentive? Okay, well, I just owe the money to a different person on April 8th.
The incentive is, once we sell it, they're gonna most likely start foreclosure.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna move on it.
Yeah, they're gonna
With-
aggressively.
With that said, we've been waiting years, and this is great action, and I understand all you guys' hard work, I get it. But how about if we just take in the time frame that, of the letter and the letter date after most people get their income tax check back?
Phil, just let it ride. Let
So
people
when-
know
They've had
they've
plenty- I
owed
think
this
they've had
money
plenty.
for
What
a
is
long
that?
time.
Is that
Yeah.
April 16th? Is that May 25th?
I
Is
wouldn't
that
do that.
I don't know.
June?
I
I'm just
wouldn't do
saying,
that.
we're just putting it out there as a.
I don't know when
I
most
think-
people get their income
Here's my,
tax check.
I wouldn't do that.
my thing is if they haven't paid to that point,
Yeah.
and where they are,
You're-
it's.
Yeah.
You're just-
Unless
you're
they're
just
I'm
getting
making
a
a
lot of
motion, I'm
money
just
back
making
in
a
their-
discussion
Yeah,
about.
no, we
I mean,
understand.
No, I get it, I'm just
worry
saying,
about
I
people
think,
that-
I think it's ones that are on this list, it's just that we're gonna get.
Yeah,
paid
they're-
directly.
Our-
they're-
our
And you're gonna
attorney-
wait until the house was being sold to get your
Right.
money.
Yeah, I think,
So-
I
I think,
understand what you're
In my
saying.
experience with
They've got
foreclosures,
ample
Phil, if
notice.
they don't pay, they're
Yeah.
not paying. You
But
work
it's
out a
not-
payment plan, they still don't pay.
And it's not a
It's-
couple $100, it's several thousands.
Yeah.
of
I hear you.
dollars.
They might be
I know.
waiting until the house transitions
Yeah.
and gets
So
sold.
apparently
Right.
nobody else is
Right.
in favor of my idea.
It's
I
just
think
a
it's hard to
suggestion.
gauge when they
I'm
get their
just
tax
talking
return.
out,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Just a
trying to, I
suggestion.
mean.
It's not
I
like a
understand.
miss, like a 2-month miss, these are
This is a long time.
long time.
Long time of
2,000.
ignoring notices.
Some are 8, 10, 15,000 or more.
Oh, my goodness.
So really, they're waiting for the.
What's that,
transaction on
18%?
the
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
tax
they're
returns
waiting
not
to
paid.
sell.
Because you
So the house
can't
and
shut
also
off their
the-
water.
Right.
And,
Take care of
well,
everything.
I mean, the water company can shut off their water.
We have no
right?
teeth in the sewer, you can't shut off the sewer.
But you cannot, for help, you cannot shut off, yeah.
Okay.
Our attorney actually made several people, they call them up and they said, well, make my interest go away, I'll pay. He said, I can't do that.
Yeah, we
And that's
can't.
back when the rates were low. He said, just refinance your house. You know, I'm not doing that.
Okay.
Back when the interest
There it
rates, when
goes.
they came out, you suggested it.
Same,
people just
same
said no.
discussions I used to have,
So-
Jim, with people with foreclosures.
Right.
Take a
Like,
look.
You almost
You
have no
might wanna
choice at
talk
this
to an
point.
attorney or refinance.
Right.
That's about as far as I can tell
So
you.
with the-
Otherwise, we're foreclosing and
Yeah.
So with the feedback I got on that idea, the GoFundMe page, we're not even gonna go there, right? We don't.
I have a heart. I'll go to the GoFundMe page, Phil. There you go.
All right.
All right,
You have to pass that resolution though.
all right.
I make a
So,
motion, we pass the resolution, with an end date of 3/31/26. And, at the same, during the same time period, we put out an RFQ, for the sale of liens.
okay, motion by Scott.
I
second.
think to be clear, that by end date, you're referring to the sale actually not occur until on or after April 1st.
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
Right.
That's exactly what I meant.
Change noted.
Second.
Motion, second.
Motion by, second by Al, thanks, Phil. Discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Noes?
Hi. Begrudgingly, I hate people that are gonna lose their
Yeah,
homes,
that
like this
hurts.
kills me.
So are you saying no?
No, I'm gonna go with it, cause
Did you
the
pay your sewer bill?
I
Yeah.
did,
Okay.
yes, I did, I'm not worried about
Responsibility of owning a
paying.
house, yeah.
7-0.
Some people are tight, man, you know?
Thank
I
you.
pay my
Okay.
bills, like, come on.
Review and discussion of possible actions, from the ordinance committee. Thanks, Jim. The senior citizen tax incentive, that was tabled because legislation's in session now, and we're trying to see if they'll help us pass something. Disabled veteran exemption, that, we have a draft for what Deep Derby did, so they're taking that and we moved that to the February 17th meeting, correct? Thank you. And then the firefighters, we have a public, hearing on February 17th.
February what, 17th?
Yes, sir? Are you here?
Yes.
Did I get your vacation times mixed up again?
I will put them out in 6 months increments for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the sidewalks we tabled because Mackenzie is still working on that one. Correct? Correct. Okay. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Public comment going twice. Public comment going 3 times. No public comment. Select person's public comment? Scotty? Bree's
No.
pushing it to you.
No public comment.
How'd you make out in the storm?
I'm here.
You have no public comment?
No.
No selectmen's comment, I'm
After
sorry.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, I understand that. Bob?
No comment.
No comment tonight.
Al?
None.
Sorry, Jay.
I'm good.
No comment.
All right, you know,
Nope, we
Too
passed
late,
you.
too late.
You're done.
Too late. Sorry, man.
I had
The
a
window
lot.
is shut.
Did you really?
No,
He did. He's kidding.
I'm exhausted.
You're exhausted. I hear you, so am I. But I have short first selectmen's comment.
Did we give Brianna a chance to say no comment? Did you say?
Oh, I
some-
jumped as
okay.
soon as he said no.
Okay.
Let's keep this train moving.
I understand it's late and I really want to get home to Alana tonight. All right, so what do I have? Sorry. I want to get home to her. There we go. Okay, we had our audit was submitted to the state January 30th. It was a clean report. We are applying for the Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. We actually had a $562,000 surplus. That was driven by increase in investment income, and that's basically how we move our money into different savings accounts in our banks, and how Jay has been doing that for the past year now. So that's really nice to have that investment income coming, because it wasn't even thought of before. John Acabella will be reporting to the Board of Finance in February. The audit is loaded up to the website. It's in the Finance Department on the left-hand side. There's also a hard copy in the town clerk's. One of the things people on the Board of Finance that knew, back in fiscal year '24, we had 56 journal entries. This year, for fiscal year '25, there was only 6 journal entries, which is outstanding. Everything is good. We have instituted Apple and Google Pay for taxes. We are working on Venmo and PayPal. The code red, as some people may know, was down. The whole system got hacked. All the municipality systems got hacked. So ours is up and running. The link in the bottom on the Town of Seymour webpage is working. I advise people to go in, look at it, make sure if you had a landline hooked up to it when you first got in, maybe you don't have your landline anymore, maybe you want to receive it via an email, because you can receive their messages through your landline, if people still have those, text messages, emails, phone calls. So just go, I would advise people to go in there and look at that. As you know, we just came off of one of our very big storms that we haven't had since maybe 2013. So there was a lot of snow. We understand there's a lot of sightline problems. Public Works has been out working it. Sean Stramello told me, he goes, it took 10 to clean the downtown area. It was 10 dump trucks just to keep the snow off of the Bridge Street Bridge. It was 20 dump trucks. So there's a lot of snow out there, and they are working to get the snow removed. They are working on the sight lines, but I have been asked to remind people that when you hire contractors to plow your driveways or to do your sidewalks, to please do not have them throw the snow into the driveways, into the roads, because our guys have to come back and clean it up, because we'll get the phone calls, they didn't come down my road, or they left a big pile. It freezes, and I really have to thank the snow brigade. They've gone out, they helped over 80 people in that last storm. So those young,
How many people, how many kids went on?
there was like 20 kids out there.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
so that's really awesome. And that's all I have. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:12. Thank you.